Find the domain and range shown in the graph. So x is the inputs or the domain, y represents the outputs or the range. So let's talk about the domain first. Squiggle bracket. Okay, the least value is -5. Notice there's a point here. There's no arrow saying it goes on forever. So we can know -5 is the least point, or least value, I should say. And then continuing along the x-axis, the greatest value is at 5. Again, there's an endpoint here. It doesn't continue on. If there was an arrow, we would end up saying the domain was real numbers greater than whatever it happens to be. I mean, if there are arrows on both sides, it would be all real numbers. Or we just say x is an element of the real numbers. However, in this case we have endpoints. So we have -5 is the least value, +5 is the greatest value. So we're going to use set builder notation because we have a curve here that's continuous and we have a lot of values. X is an element of the real numbers such that, there's the vertical bar again, and then -5 is the least value, and x is our domain variable, and 5 is the greatest value, squiggle bracket, there's our domain. X is an element of the real numbers such that x is greater than or equal to -5 and less than or equal to 5. Okay, so there's the domain. Now we'll look at the range. Squiggle bracket. Now this one you want to be careful. If you're looking at this point, which is tempting to do, this is not the least y value. The least y value is actually way down here. And that's at -7. And you want to look at the greatest y value. It's tempting to look at this point right here, but that's not the greatest y value because if you go over here to the left, the greatest y value is right here, and that's at 6. So this is your range from -7 to +6. It's not the range of these two endpoints. You can see values greater than the endpoint or less than the endpoints. Be very, very careful on this. This is a tricky one to understand. The range is all the output values, not just where the points are. So we're going to say y is an element of the real numbers. And again, we're using set builder notation because we have a curve which is continuous. There are a lot of values such that, and we said -7 was the least value, so that's less than or equal to y, and less than or equal to 6, which is the greatest value. Close squiggle bracket. There you go. There's the range. Y is an element of the real numbers such that y is greater than or equal to -7 and less than or equal to 6.